to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If I seem groggy, it's because I am, and I apologize in advance. That being said, we will move on. We have a fairly full agenda, but I think we can get through this before we all collapse. Okay, we'll start off with the Arts Grant Committee. This is one of our most active programs and extraordinarily ably chaired by Commissioner Conrad, who puts in hours of work to make it possible for us to deal with many applications. So, Roger,
thank you,
over
Chairman.
to you.
I was asked in advance, Brian Berman has an event for Ojai that he has to go to, so if we could have the presentation from you first, that would be great.
I'm just going to put one of these down.
Okay.
So we have something.
Thanks.
And I might mention to the commissioners that we have little red marks on the applications, and they also relate to the form that I just gave you that has Brian Berman as number one on this particular list. What I'll do when other people want to go up, I'll call out the number first. So this would be application number one.
Excuse me, point of order.
Yes.
Chair Addison. I think we may have someone in the audience for public comment.
Oh, my apologies. Indeed.
Okay, so just,
Well, do you mind if Brian goes first, and then we can return to you for the public comment?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
thank you, Chair Addison.
Thank you. Brian, fire away.
Thank you all. Unfortunately, I was informed when I got here that I can't give you the digital visual presentation like I did last year. I'm not exactly sure how my words will communicate what I want to share, but the last 2 years, and thanks to former Mayor Lara, we became an international city of peace, and so I've been working on peace projects here for Ojai. And this year, we were granted monies for 2 events, the parade and International Day of Peace, a small grant for what was applied for, and so next year I'm requesting a grant as well for greater activity and greater funds. So we brought the Alexander Hamilton singers to Ojai that performed on the 3rd of July, right before the 4th of July, and they were just outstanding. And then they were on our float, and unfortunately you aren't hearing them because I had created that in my digital presentation, which I'll drop off tomorrow, and Amber will send it out to you all. The 4th of July parade, we were awarded the first place award. I believe that we delighted the thousands of people that were in town, as Hamilton is really the #1 Broadway musical, and we brought it to Ojai. So that was one of the performance pieces that we combined, and I call this the art of peace building because it is an art to bring the arts out and promote peace in our community. So then International Peace Day is September 21st, sanctioned by the United Nations, and so we had a full-day program starting in the morning at the Porch Gallery with a meditation. And then at 9 o'clock, we began at the Ojai Arts Center. We had a full day of program and community leaders that were speaking about how they bring peace into their work life. And then we spent the evening a performance, musical concert for peace, facilitated and conducted by Ray Powers, and it was a phenomenally beautiful event, almost a sold-out house, and I thanked Ray for doing that. So the plan for next year is to have more performance art. John Slade, many of you know John Slade. He has agreed to coordinate and perform performance for peace, performances, plural. So during the year, we'll be working together to create a program for the community. And we'll have it on the weekend, where the International Day of Peace falls on Thursday in 2017. So we'll probably have a smaller program for the daytime and a bigger community event on the weekend. Other than that, I'm open to any of your questions.
Any questions? Roger, you should be conducting this.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are there any questions? Yeah, I think your application was even more clear than last year, and so you're getting good.
Thank you. This is foreign for me, applying for grants. Primarily, I make art, I create art, and I present it. So I appreciate, and even in the video that you will see maybe tomorrow or over the weekend, you'll see that I acknowledge you for and the city of Ojai for supporting these efforts. From my personal opinion, anything that supports peace in the world is welcome these days.
Right.
So thank you all very
Great.
much.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.
We appreciate it. Okay, shall we go to public comment?
Yes, Ray, I believe you wish to speak?
I'm really happy to let all the grantees,
It would be appropriate for you to speak now as public comment. I should have done it before I called Brian to the podium.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Brian.
I think it's appropriate because I've seen your name on a number of the applications too, so that's great.
But not this year, because I've been so busy, and the deadline passed by. I do want to acknowledge Brian for all the peace building and bridge making he's been doing, and I was involved the last 2 years in the International Day of Peace, and it was quite enriching and moving experience. But I'm here tonight as a layperson, Ray Powers, 788 Hot Springs Road, not as a commissioner on the Planning Commission. And I just wanted to share an idea I had, and stop me if this isn't the appropriate forum, but I've been, as I do, I mull and think about what I want to encourage the community to get involved with, and how to get community enthusiasm about things. And I'm aware that next year is the 100-year centennial of Edward Libby's Ojai City Beautiful vision that he proclaimed in 1917, I believe. And I'm also involved with the Ojai Water Trust, and very involved with permaculture and water, and been having lots of conversations with that. Some of you may recall a couple years ago, because you helped me produce it, I wrote a symphony called Valley of the Moon that got performed with the Ojai Youth Symphony. About 200 people showed up at the community church on Cruzeiro, and it was a wonderful event, and it was a one-off. I was able to raise about, along with your funding, about $10,500 with grants and matching grants, and we put on this event. So my idea is somehow, so I just want to plant a seed tonight, is around the centennial, which I believe is April 8th next year.
Yes.
Sometime around there, do something at Libby Bowl that looks at what's the next 100 years, what does Ojai look like 100 years from now? What is the community involvement? How has water-wise thinking come into play? How has our architecture changed? How has our economy changed? And kind of do a educational symposium involved with the arts, hopefully produce and perform the Valley of the Moon Symphony again, bring in some of the brilliant minds and intelligence that live here in the city, and kind of explore this, possibly have an artist make a large-scale painting of what does Ojai look like 100 years from now, and kind of build a wave of energy. If some of you know about business strategy, you know, you throw your hat over the fence and look backwards. So 100 years from now, what do we start? And you work backwards. What are the milestones we need to hit to get there? So that's my thought in a nutshell. I hope that was articulated enough. I'm kind of improvising on this. But that has me excited. And I've just planted the seed in myself. This is kind of the first time I've shared it. And maybe we can create something together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Ray, have you spoken with anybody at the museum about this idea? Because they're initiating a pretty elaborate centennial celebration throughout the year.
Yes, I spoke with, I can see his face. It was at Ojai Day.
Mark Lewis, possibly? Mark Lewis?
Probably.
Tall.
Yes.
Mark Lewis.
And yes, he shared they were doing something in the park and said, well, why don't you do your thing during the day? Like we do our thing in the morning and then you do your thing like late in the afternoon. And I'm seeing my initial download of this was an evening event. So I'm not, because I want to do some projections and things like that. So maybe there's a segue. I'm not sure what day of the week April 8th is. So I know the museum wants to do it on April 8th or on April 9th. And I'm not sure what the day of the week is of that. Yeah. But I'm not necessarily, with my experience with International Day of Peace, I'm not convinced doing anything in the middle of the week is the best way to get the community involved. Because people work, kids are at school, like that. So, but I'm willing to explore with the museum, for sure. I don't have any closed doors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know that they are planning some events on Ojai Day of 2017 as the sort of culmination of the anniversary year, so maybe it could be a part of that weekend event.
Oh, in October.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should coordinate what you're doing with the museum. The museum's actually planning a series of exhibits and other events which will actually go all year. Our current exhibit is called Art Town, which is basically the collections of the museum as well as the city municipal collection. And so this is kind of kicking off the idea of like a centennial for the city. And so I think to coordinate would be really very good.
If there could be a smooth dovetail, I could see that working. I know in my conversation with Mark, the focus of the museum was historical, like he was talking about period dress and period music and things like that. Yeah. And if there's a smooth dovetail, because I'm going 100 years out, not 100 years back.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a really exciting thing, and I think Mark would be really receptive to that because he's wanting to look at the year and what happened and to then project what will happen in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll have another conversation with him.
Right.
And now you're the holders of the vision now as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
I could also mention that Ray has photographs at the community bank. Yeah, so a little advertisement there.
And congratulations on your appointment to the Planning Commission.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get back to grants. Do we have another grant application? All right. Now, and what's your name?
Celine Godfrey.
Number 6.
Number 6?
I live here in Ojai in the East End, 4205 Thatcher Road, and I'll be with you momentarily. Excuse me. Thanks for hearing me tonight. I am actually I'm an educator by profession. I'm the author of Raising Financially Fit Kids, but I am also one of the co-founders of the Ojai Valley Water Trust, and it's that role which brings me here tonight. The Water Trust, as you probably know, is a very nascent organization, just a baby thing getting started. But one of the very first things that was clear to us is that bringing a new vision, excuse me, of water reality to the valley over the next 100 years is something we will be collaborating with as a community in hundreds of ways, I'm sure. And one of the things we wanted to focus on was how to use the arts as a vehicle for education in terms of helping people think about new ways to live. The author, Charles Fishman, who wrote the book, The Great Thirst, has said and has been repeated many times that the golden age of water is over, that population growth and climate change have converged to make water a very precious resource, not just in the Ojai Valley, but certainly all of California and around the world. But our focus is really the valley and how we make do with what we have, given that we are off the water grid here in the valley. So what we thought about was to use, again, the Porch Gallery, which does seem to be increasingly a community meeting ground in so many ways, and use it as a place to project into the night a series of artists and paintings that evoke feelings of water and water change, interspersed with ideas and text that are available throughout the night, every night for a period of 4 months, piggybacking on the work of 4 different local artists to do what we're referring to as projecting water signals. The name of this project, if it's approved, is Water Signals. And the idea is to signal the future of water, to signal messages about the use of water, the conservation of water, new ideas for how we relate to water. And it's unlike the giant vision, which I must say I loved, Ray, unlike the 100-year vision behind me, this is just one small nugget, one small effort that we would like to drop into the community as one contribution to building a consciousness of conservation and working together. One of the things that became clear, and I think is always clear in the history of water in California, is that there are many competing stakeholders when it comes to water, and one person's loss is often felt to be some other person's gain or some other stakeholder's gain. And what we know is that if we are going to survive and triumph and thrive in a new atmosphere of changing water conditions, we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to collaborate so that farmers and merchants and citizens and children and old people and young people are all going to have to find a vision on which we can work together so that we're not at odds, but we are in this together. So the proposal you have in front of you, I have to say, is probably not up to snuff in terms of the structure. And Christine, I am so grateful for your call this afternoon. But I hope you will consider it seriously, and I look forward to working with you, if not on this one, then something else in the future that will make you happier. So, questions?
Jolene, were you able to find the fiscal?
I knew you were going to ask that. Well, yes and no. So I got the papers from our fiscal agent this afternoon. I don't believe they're exactly the right ones, and I couldn't get her to send other ones before this meeting. So I can go back to her.
Well, why don't you pass over the copy that you do? And, just to explain to everybody here that when I reviewed the grant, I saw there was this missing piece, which was the papers from the fiscal receiver. But since it doesn't change the grant in any way, shape, or form, I wondered if we could accept the papers at this time. It's not a rewrite of the grant. It's just, Jolene had told me she's never written a grant before. And this looks like exempt papers. No, they're not the right thing.
I didn't think so.
Well, we're going to have to make a decision and let you know whether or not
Okay.
we can accept the
I
fiscal
appreciate
receivership
that,
after the
Christine.
fact.
And I totally
Yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
I
But you please do search for it in the event that we
will.
all agree to do that, that we can get that from you. And we need copies for everybody.
Oh, okay, good to
You know, so we need, I would make 8 or 9 or even 10 copies.
And assuming I can do that first thing tomorrow, I'll just drop them here at City Hall.
Would that work for you, Amber?
And I'm happy to scan them out to the commission.
Great.
Okay, fabulous. All right, so we'll discuss later the implications of doing that.
I have one question that I have to ask, and Christine and I talked about this, and that is that it states very clearly on page 2 of the grant application that you have to match the amount of the grant, and you are substantially short of that with a total of 3,000, and you're requesting 3,500.
Yeah, that was
Would you be able to
Not sure what you're
match,
saying.
make that up?
I would go one of two directions, and I will happily live
Okay.
either way.
Okay.
Either cutting or adding.
Right.
But I will
Yeah,
make
and we
sure that
talked
either
about
way.
that too, like-
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Bobby has a question too.
Yeah, well, that was one of my questions. The other question was, I don't know if this is just an oversight in the application, but you mentioned four artists, you have the bios of 4 artists, but then under the curators, you mentioned to coordinate the work of the 3 artists.
Oh, God, that was my bad. We originally started with 3 artists, and then one other person raised his hand, and I didn't catch that one, so that's my bad.
Okay, and I have another question.
Go for it.
The other question was, I mean, I think, well, we'll discuss how we feel
Yes.
about the grant, but my question is, because the Porch Gallery, Heather is on the commission.
That's right.
Is that a conflict that this is being applied for and she's part of this?
Well, I would ask Amber to not just comment on that, and of course Heather's not here to do any voting, so that it's almost a moot point because she's not here, but whether she would recuse herself, I would assume so. But the other question is that Christine Byrne is the fiscal receiver for one of the grants. So does she recuse herself as well? And I don't know I have a guess, but Amber, can you give us some clarity?
I do apologize, I'm not quite familiar with the role that the Porch Gallery is going to be playing in the arts, in this particular grant's execution. Could somebody explain that to me a little bit more thoroughly?
Well, go ahead,
Actually, I can
Jolene.
explain it. It's essentially the window in the Porch Gallery that we will be using. So in that response, Heather really isn't, we're not calling on Heather for exactly the reason that you've
Right.
put forward.
I don't see a conflict there. I do, however, see a conflict with Commissioner Byrne and acting as the fiscal receiver for one of the grants, and simply that she would need to recuse herself from determining the amount or whether or not that particular grant applicant would receive funds.
Fair enough.
Also, I want to just comment that when we deliberate, I spent some time with Jolene, and I was able, with her help, to reorganize the way the grant was written so that it follows more closely our format. It'll be a little easier for us to understand. So if you're feeling a little scrambled, it'll all get straightened out when it comes time.
Okay.
I do apologize. I would like to think I will be back here another time, and I will be better schooled at that point. So
Okay.
thank you. Thanks for your
You.
time tonight.
Thanks.
There was one other kind of administrative detail that we have a problem with.
Sure.
The Carolyn Glasgow Bailey Foundation, according to this, it says it incorporated in 2015, December 28th. And basically, the fiscal receivers are supposed to have been at least 3 years old.
Oh, that's.
You know, I didn't know that when we asked them to be the receiver, and
I missed that.
unfortunately, it is what it is. I know that they have done several things in the community that have been pretty stable,
Yeah.
so there's not much I can do. Now, I could go and search, and I think there is a second receiver I could shift to, but it's probably too late at this point. But anyway.
Well, also, what I would like to explore is whether we can waive that, because I think this is a very relevant project and a very exciting one for artists to be in. You know, like arts can be decorative, arts can be spiritual, but this is something that's really very relevant, and you know, it's an exciting time, and there is a great art tradition in basically carrying a message and making a statement, and this grant really does that. So I would like to explore if we can possibly waive that 3-year.
Well, I would certainly work with you in whatever way possible.
Great.
So I'll do my part, because I do think you guys have been helpful here. I appreciate it.
Okay, great.
Great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
It really is an exciting project.
Thank you, Jillian.
May I speak to the question of it being waived? It mostly depends upon whether or not these guidelines and stipulations have been accepted and approved by the city council, at which point the power to waive any particular part of it actually falls to the council. Whereas if it's something that's been voted on and approved by the commission, then the power lies within the commission to waive stipulations.
Well, can you clarify then for us, Amber, because the process has been that we recommend to city council and then they approve, but I don't know that they've ever gotten into the minutia of our application process.
I think it would be wise to include in the recommendation that stipulation was waived for the applicant, should the commission choose to grant
Okay,
funding.
gotcha.
That makes sense, yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't know if we should discuss this later or now, but I've sat on a number of grant committees with the city of Ventura, and my understanding, though, is for the fiscal receiver, that's an important position, and part of their thing is we're handing over money, and the longevity and the reliability of the fiscal receiver is on paper is very important. So I'm new to the city of Ojai grant, and so that is kind of something that bothers me a little.
Well, I think your point is well taken. It is a guideline rather than a rigid rule, but at the same time, this particular item, I think, as you point out, is one that involves a significant amount of money, and it's very clear that it should be a fiscal receiver that's been in business at least 3 years to provide for that guarantee. I do think, however, that it would not change the nature of the grant if within the next week, let's say, you were able to find another receiver. But we
Okay.
unfortunately are going to have to make decisions tonight on the
Right,
grant.
right.
So I think at this point, we can leave it at that, and we'll continue the discussion
Discussion later.
as
Okay.
we discuss all of the grants this
Okay,
evening.
lovely.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Jolene.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, do we have another applicant? Okay. And,
Hi there.
hi.
Okay. So, hello. Is this working out? Okay. My name is Dana Santoyo, and I am the co-artistic director for the Ojai Youth Entertainer Studio, along with, this is for
Yeah, this is number
Ojai
7.
Youth Entertainer Studio. Can you hear me if I just stand
Yes.
back this way? Okay, so I don't have to be.
That's
okay,
great.
Great, super. And Meg Sukot Kelly right here we're co-artistic directors for Oh Yes. And basically our mission is to inspire and educate and entertain children and families through the experience of theater, music, and dance in the Ojai Valley. In January of this year, Meg and I took over as the new directors for Ojai Youth Entertainer Studio, and in June, we relocated the theater and the organization to the youth center at the Ojai Valley Community Church. We immediately kicked off our summer program, Disney musical of the Aristocats, and in September, we launched our fall session, which is the Lion King Jr., and we service families throughout the Ojai Valley and all of Ventura County. Our children and students range from ages 4 to 6 in our TOTS program and 7 to 15 in our youth program. We currently have over 75 families participating in our fall session, and our TOTS program has tripled this fall, and we're excited to have been able to bring on board additional instructors in order to meet the need of the growing student enrollment. We triple cast our productions, which means we have 3 separate casts rehearsing at the same time, which provides more opportunities for children and families to participate in our programs. We try to be as open and inclusive as possible by triple casting or opening the program up as much as possible so that all children can participate. We maintain affordability for our program. It's a 5-month program for about $350, providing payment plans and scholarships whenever possible. One of the reasons we are able to keep our programming so affordable is because of grant funding and fundraising that we do ourselves. In addition to our youth programs, we are home to the Rockin' It Old School Senior Choir, which is directed by Smitty West, and we host all of their rehearsals, and we host their semi-annual concert. And we are also home for the Ojai Valley Improv Group, and that's an adult improv group directed by John Medeiros. We continue to host the Ojai Voices of Ojai semi-annual concert with the Oh Yes Youth Choir and Senior Choir to provide intergenerational performing arts experiences for our youth. The youth choir is directed by Julia Zonick, and we're excited to announce that we have a newly formed relationship with the Ojai Youth Orchestra, which is directed by, I believe his name is Thomas. His first name is Thomas. I can't remember his last name. I didn't write it down. But we're really excited about this because it's sort of a dream to bring together youth musicians and youth singers and the senior choir and the Rockin' It Old School live band and bring everybody together for a semi-annual concert, which is always titled The Voices of Ojai. And so we will be bringing that to the Ojai Valley in December. Our goal essentially is to continue the tradition of bringing generations together in music and the performing arts. We also incorporate artists and performers from the Ojai Valley to teach classes and work with children. For example, John Medeiros, who is currently performing at the Art Center this weekend in 0 Hour, teaches a well-loved dialects class and a youth improv class for children ages 7 to 15. And Julia Zonick, a vocal coach, musical director, and professional singer, teaches and directs our youth choir. Katrina Pisano, who is directed Rent last year and directed this summer's production of Macbeth. She co-directs our musical theater program as well as teaching numerous classes and acting classes and movement classes. Kimberly Rogers-Peters is new to our team, and she co-directs the TOTS program, that's for ages 4 to 6, along with Marin Valerio, who is a student-turned-teacher and dance instructor at the Ojai Art Center. And new to our team is also Alexander Schottke, who provides vocal direction for The Lion King Jr. this fall and is currently rehearsing for Grand Hotel and recently performed in See How They Run, directed by Richard Camp. Our point is that we include as many of the local artists and professionals in performing arts gifts from people that we can into our program, and we're really excited to be able to do that. I'll just present to you one spotlight story, and then I will invite Meg to present a spotlight story on a couple of our students from this year. As an organization, we have the privilege of reaching the lives of many children and families in our community. And this summer, we were given the opportunity to make a difference in a child's life whose family had been affected by a very severe personal crisis. The family could not afford to take time off from work, and this child was in need of a positive environment to spend her summer days during a very emotional time. With the help of friends and teachers, we were able to provide a scholarship and accommodate their needs and welcome this young girl into the summer program. And this student has become a wonderful addition to OYS's community and has joined us again this fall. It feels very good to know that our program was a positive resource for this family, and this is just one of the many stories where OYS is making a difference in the lives of someone in our community in some way. In addition to being a creative outlet and an enriching experience for kids, We have countless stories of children outgrowing painful shyness, gaining confidence and responsibility for their cast and for themselves, and having a wonderful time. And we feel very strongly that it's important to help keep children in both a participant and a supporter of the arts by including them in the experience of it from a very young age. And now I will invite Meg to talk about Harrison.
So another great example, he's honestly frequently my go-to story when I think about and talk about why theater matters so much and why our program in particular matters so much. Harrison Love has been a student with us since before actually Dana or I were working at the theater. And he first started playing an elephant in Jungle Book. And from what I understand, his initial audition, he couldn't even face the directors. He had to stand in the corner. And Kimberly, his mother, also one of our board members, is here. Was he actually able to say any lines? Do you remember?
He ran in and he ran out.
Okay, so he ran in and he ran out. Well, he's stuck with us. He's not only participated in our productions, but has also taken classes such as dialects, improv. He took a puppeteering and puppet making class that I taught recently. I'm trying to remember what else he's taken. He's taken video classes. Suffice it to say, he's done the range. And now he has actually starred in many leading roles. He is currently playing the grown Simba part in our performance company, which is our oldest cast rendition of The Lion King. And he's just absolutely, as she was talking about overcoming shyness, this has been absolutely integral to his development as a young man. As Kimberly says, he has a swagger when he's at the theater, and she calls it his "Oh Yes" swagger. And he's actually developed many lifelong friends. I would hope they'd be lifelong friends through the theater. And as many of the other kids call it, he also calls it his second home. So we're really lucky to get to work with children like this and provide them a play, not only a resource and an artistic opportunity, but a safe space like that. So that's why, grants are important. That's why we're here.
I have a book. This is Harrison. I'll just pass it around. This is Harrison's journey through Ojai Youth Entertainer Studio. I don't know if you guys want to just take it and take a glance and pass it down.
Thank you, Dana.
His story.
Yeah.
And so that's us. We're done blabbing now. We can whatever questions you have.
All right, do we have any questions from the commissioners?
No, none at all.
Okay.
I have to say, I'm impressed by your growth and development.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very strong.
Thank you.
Very
I
impressive.
do have one question do you have a copy of your
I think
grant
I
with you?
have a copy of what you're looking at, but if
Oh,
I
okay.
don't, we'll figure it out. Okay.
It's just the dispersal of the money. I'm just kind of curious. Like you have that you want 5,500 from the grant, and then under it said, "How will you match the funds?" And then you added up things that come out to 5,500. But then under 13, you have a budget which is going to 18,000.
Can I look at what you're looking at really quickly?
I think we have a different copy.
I have the same thing, but I want to make sure.
Yeah, it was just a number missing.
Yeah, it's a different, this was our form here, which,
Yeah, that's just the figure you're talking about.
Well,
It should be $18,104. Oh, sorry.
yeah.
It should be $18,104.
Yeah, so basically your total budget is 18,104.
yes.
Oh.
And so I was curious if you pulled this out for some reason, or is that a typo, basically, that this is here?
I think it might have been a typo. We have someone who's helping us with our grant writing.
Right.
Yeah, we have someone who assists us with our grant writing because we, in addition to teaching and doing all the sets and things like that, it's a lot. So we're still learning about the grant writing process.
good.
So chances are
All right.
it looks like she might have just, made a mistake.
It looked to me when I added it up that she just dropped the 4 and the decimal for whatever reason, because
Okay.
the comma's in the right place. It just didn't.
Well,
It just is missing.
Yeah,
Okay.
but if you
digits.
add all those numbers up, it comes up to $18,104. Is that right?
Well, yeah, and that does add up correctly there, but I was wondering what this match funds that says 5,500.
Oh, in terms of basically the fact that the money with the matched funds and the grant is less than the total budget?
Yeah, it basically should have been the total budget at that point is what I'm surmising.
Okay, I think the confusion there was that we thought we needed to only indicate where the matched funds would be coming from, even though
Well,
we will actually
It
be.
said match funds
Going
must
beyond
equal or exceed the amount
Okay.
being requested.
Requested, it is the same. $5,500 is what they're
Yeah, but,
requesting.
but
And there's-
their actual budget is more than this.
We will be raising
Yes, it does.
more money, basically, suffice it to say.
read it.
I'll talk later on that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think we got it
confused.
cleared up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions with the commissioners?
No.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Thank you very much, and it is a very worthwhile program, and we really appreciate that.
All right, we'll talk later, but boy, I don't understand it that way. That's really interesting.
Let's save discussion for when we've reviewed all the grants. Is there anyone else present who is here to speak to a grant? Yes, please.
Good evening. My name is Kitty Wynn, and I'm here on behalf of the Ojai Film Society
Okay.
Young Filmmakers Competition.
Yeah, that's number 5.
This spring will be the 6th annual Young Filmmakers Competition. It'll be on May the 6th. Jim Whitney, who was before you last year, and I took over the running of this program. This was the second year, the second spring that we did it. The year before we took it over, I think they had 13 applications from schools, both elementary and high schools. Students who made films less than 15 minutes and presented them into the competition. Jim and I took it to 29, and this year there were 28. And there was some discussion about whether we could show all of those films, and I said, absolutely. You know, if a kid's going to spend his time and his effort and his heart making something, we're going to show it. And if the audience has to sit there a little longer, they'll sit there a little longer. Well, it turns out I don't think there were too many complaints. And a lot of these films are just filled with passion. And I noticed the first year that we showed them, there were a number of, well, there weren't a number, but there were a few films that lacked a story. And so Jim and I were talking about, why don't we start a mentoring program? We'll bring writers into the school. We only go to one school now, and that's Nordhoff School. It's Tom Friedman's media class. And so last fall, we had a producer, 2 writers, because we know the importance. If you don't have a story, you don't really have a film. So we wanted to really drill that in. 2 wonderful writers. A documentary filmmaker and an actor, John Slade, came. And they came over a number of weeks. And we noticed this past spring that having that mentoring program really changed the game as far as what these kids presented, and we were just so really just astounded by what we saw in the spring. This fall, we're sort of increased the number. We've moved into now the more technical side of filmmaking, and the mentors are, we've had a sound person, we've had another writer, because we keep drilling that into them, sound, editing, camera. There'll be an acting one coming up next week, costumes. And these are all people who live in the Valley and who are professionals and who have their own passion about what they've spent their life doing. So they impart this to the kids, and I've gone to every single one, and it's just to listen to them and watch the response has been kind of an honor, really. There's something that's not in there that I think I should bring up that's come out of this. I'm not really, to tell the truth, competitions I mean, they're wonderful, but when I was, you know, I always ask myself, well, how do you know what's best? I mean, what I think is best, someone else will say, oh, no, this is best. And so in dealing with kids, I thought, we have to do something else. These films should go beyond just a competition. So I started looking at each one. And there was a film made by a young man who is autistic. It's a film called Rain. It's about how water moves through the valley when we've had water in the valley. And it's kind of an ode, a poem to water. And I just happened to hear that a preeminent drought specialist was coming up to the retreat last spring to talk about drought. And so I rushed up there and spoke to the man who runs it, and I said, can you put me in touch with Tom Ash, because I have this little film, it's only a few minutes, made by this young man who doesn't really have words to impart, but he certainly has a vision. And he said, yeah, I'll put you in touch with him. So I sent the little video off to Tom, and he said, absolutely, I'll show it. It will open the program. Mm-hmm. And so that evening, this young man's film opened the program on drought, and it kind of set the stage for what happened, which was not such a happy talk. But and then I looked at another film. There's a young woman who suffers from OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And I have a friend in the town who's a psychiatrist who also teaches. And I said, would you take a look at this? Now, I have to tell you, I had permission from all of these kids. In fact, they were delighted with this, that they might be helping someone else. And she looked at it and she said, I can use this as a teaching tool. So this little film, which is an autobiography, the young woman doesn't star in it. She has a friend acting her part. It's a little 9-minute film about a day in the life of someone with this disability. And it's quite moving, and it won our grand prize. Let's see, there's another film that didn't win any prizes. It was made by a young woman who graduated from Nordhoff last year. It's about running. She has this passion to run. But it turns out she suffers from a lung disease. In fact, she was running so hard the lining of her lung opened up, and she had to deal with that. But working with the coach, she persisted, and I think in Southern California, running a race, the last race she won before she graduated, she came in 5th in all of these counties, which was quite a triumph for her. And so I called the American Lung Association and the Heart, Lung, and Blood, it's not association, it's not federation, well, Institute, it's called the Institute. And both of these, they were so lovely, and they said, of course we will show them. We'll show them on our website, and it will inspire other kids to go on and try to do things even though they have, lung problems. So, and was one other this year, and I haven't quite gotten it set in place yet, but there is an International Dyslexic Society that meets once a year in October somewhere in the world. And it occurred to me that many of these kids that are dyslexic are incredibly imaginative. And this young woman, she's Japanese. She actually grew up in a society, we've had these talks about this, where she was shunned by her peers, and she was ridiculed by her teachers, and that's one of the reasons her parents sent her here. Well, she made the most whimsical, delightful little film. It's only 4 minutes long, but I thought if I could interest the International Dyslexic Society to, when they have their conference, which is a 2-day conference, if they had a little festival within that and showed films from all over the world, kids could send in short, maybe no more than 5 minutes, and they could show them as part of their program. That would be a wonderful, so I'm working on that now. I haven't got that quite up and running, but, so the making of films, I see it, and Jim sees it as something that's beyond a contest. And so I'm hoping that you will give us support this year as you have other years, and that we can continue with going off on this road. So, do you have any questions?
This is more a technical question.
Oh dear, technical. I don't know how to answer that.
The money. I
Oh,
forgot to turn this on. So sorry. Yes, I noticed under your match, the amount you're going to match and the grant funds, the total is more than what you're asking. However, right below you say that 5,000 of it is volunteer hours, but then if you take away that 5,000, how do you cover these hard costs? Because I see hard costs that are more, the numbers to me don't jibe.
Right. That's because I did it. I'm the one who wrote that. And it's the first grant I've ever, may I just say this? I don't mean to be, but.
Yeah, so you have $3,070 in actual costs, and you're saying you're coming up with $5,620 in matched, but of that, 5,000 are volunteers. So that's only $600. That doesn't cover the 3,000 in hard costs that you have.
We do have someone who has said they would help us with whatever.
If you wouldn't mind, I apologize, would you mind in the microphone for the minutes? Thank you so much.
Bobby, would you, I'm not sure, Bobby, I'm not sure I'm understanding what the issue is that you see.
Okay, if you have a total of costs of $3,070, correct? The matched funds, they're saying they're receiving $5,620, of which 5,000 of that is the volunteer hours. So that leaves only $620 to cover some, all of the hard costs. For example, the awards and reception, that's
Well, but
$1,650 of a
in-kind
hard cost.
contributions are allowed, and the volunteer hours is an in-kind contribution, so it's allowed. So the 5,620 is more, and that's okay. They have to equal or exceed
Right.
line above.
I was just looking at hard costs versus,
Well, we don't,
Covering the hard
in-kind is
costs
okay.
by the
Okay.
grant, presumably.
Yes.
Yeah,
we-
in-kind
Okay.
contribution is
Actually,
fine.
Mrs. Batterman, I was taking it off of, I was trying to learn from looking at the grant last year and, trying to figure out, I'm not good at numbers, but I was trying to figure out by looking at that how to fill this out, and I hope I did it satisfactorily, or that you.
Wait, I have a question too. It also seems a very worthy project to me as well, but I do have a couple of questions. So then it appears that if you don't get the funds, you can't do this competition. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know whether we would. I'm hoping that there's, that we will get the funds.
So you couldn't do, well, I guess what I'm asking is
I-
if you received even a portion of the funds, would the project still go ahead?
I think the project will go ahead, that we will somehow find it. I mean, if we can, it has been, I can't imagine dropping it
And
for
then
any reason.
the only other thing is your financial information. I find it a little odd that it's percent of change as opposed to your actual balance sheet. It makes it difficult for us to figure out if you're financially solvent to
Do you mean
receive
the Ojai
funds.
Film Society, if they?
Well, that's, what we received was a balance sheet that really doesn't tell us anything.
That didn't come through me, that came through the office.
Okay.
And there certainly is money in in our accounts. I don't know what Jesse gave you. Is there,
Perhaps we can do the same thing here that we're doing for the other grant and have you bring over the correct information to Amber tomorrow.
and what would that be?
That would be the,
Correct balance sheet.
a balance
Balance
sheet.
sheet.
With actual numbers as opposed to a percent of change
Yeah,
of the
I-
previous year. So hard currency.
Okay. I will talk to the treasurer tonight,
Okay.
and I will bring it over.
So it's a.
How many copies do you need?
Well, we need copies for everybody around the table, so 7, 8, 9.
Or a profit and loss, whatever.
Yeah, profit loss.
Okay.
Yeah, in the past, we have gotten all that information before, so.
No, we had a change of
Yeah, I
office
realize that.
managers, and
Right.
I was just relying on our office our new one to
Right.
give you what
Yeah.
you needed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize.
Okay.
I also have a question.
Yep.
Just want to make sure that I'm doing the math right, and that's for number 14. The total project will have costs equal to the amount of grant money requested plus the amount matched by the Ojai Film Society, but there's no amount of what is being matched by the Ojai Film Society, so that I don't know what the total is there of the project. It's missing information
Right. Okay.
for number
This is
14.
not- I don't know what.
So, number 14, it's on page, well, the pages aren't numbered.
Okay, while we're waiting, I have some questions too, and then we can clarify that. It seemed to me in the past that you sold tickets,
No, we don't charge.
so you don't charge, so all the
No.
performances are free, okay. And then, what are the amounts of the actual awards that you plan to give?
There's a 500, 400, 300, 200, and then we have a Audience Choice Award, which costs about $87. It's a globe or a, it's the trophy company makes something appropriate.
Okay. So you said you have a 500, 400?
5432 cash
32. Oh,
award
okay,
to the
32, all
kids,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
14?
Oh, that's number 5?
Number 5. So let me know when you find the page, and then I'll ask the question again for you.
You're
It's
saying-
item 14, which is at the bottom of one of the pages.
Number 14,
Yeah, number 14.
not page 14,
Okay.
page 3.
If Joe was here for
No, I said number 14.
Yeah, number 14 is on
Just imagine. Well, the total budget is what I just said, the amount of the awards plus the reception. And the reception usually comes to, not more than $200 for our reception for the kids.
So how do we come up with that total? How do we find that total? I mean, I didn't know if I should add what you're asking for grant funds, which is $3,070, plus the total match funds, which is $5,620. I added that together for $8,690.
No.
That's not the, see, we don't have that figure
That's not
from
the
you. We need the
cost.
figure for what the total project costs.
Okay, I'm going to get that from Jesse tomorrow, and I will get it over to you. I don't know.
And the amount that the Film Society is going to contribute as well, because that's listed in here, but we don't know what that means.
Yeah, so we'll have to deliberate on this as well. Yeah. But thank you.
Thank
Just so
you.
you know what's missing. You bring all that tomorrow, it may or may not matter at that point. We have to decide tonight, so.
And Christine, I just want to make a comment that number 8, which is how the funds are spent, is an expense, where number 9 is income, so you wouldn't add the two together.
Say it again?
You wouldn't add the matched funds to the cost.
Well, I didn't think so, but I was trying to
Yeah.
just come up with something. That's
Yeah,
why
no,
I thought
those
I'd
two
ask
numbers
the-
don't get
Yeah, I
added
didn't think
together.
so.
One's there to cover the other.
I was hoping, though,
Yeah.
you know. And it was a shot in the dark.
Okay, well, me too.
So we don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Whew.
It's right there.
Oh. Take care, Dana.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Kitty.
Do we have any more applicants? Somebody in the darkness there, or do you have an application now? Okay. All right. All right. I think that completes our presentations then.
We have not reviewed 2, 3, or 4.
Yes.
Should we do that?
Yes, by all means, please, Councilman Laura. We're about to engage in discussion of all of the grants one by one, so anything you have to say about the grants would be
Yes,
appropriate.
and
now.
I'm not talking, I'm not wearing my council hat.
Oh, okay.
Talking my individual. My daughters are part of the Ojai Youth Entertainment Studio programs. And I think that what Dana and Meg spoke about, the confidence, how open they were and how good the kids articulate and learn, I think it's a reflection on my girls. They've been doing it for 5+ years. And each time I go and see one of their performance, it's amazing to see the joy in every single kid. And as a parent, it just touches my heart to know that they're really doing work for our youth in a very artistic way. And I think it's just building their self-esteem, their self-confidence, and their sense of camaraderie. And my girls also call that studio their second home. So it's just not about, it's about all those kids in that are doing those shows. And I think it's just, as a parent, I'm just so glad that they're able to have an activity and an event that they could participate and grow as an individual. So I just was pitching my support for the Ojai Youth Entertainment Studio.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Roger, how do you want to conduct the next part of this process?
Well, actually, the next part of the process is our next meeting is when we actually decide on that. So the presentations are complete for tonight. The people that didn't show up was Focus on the Masters, the Lineage Dance Company, and the Ojai Choir. And
Mr. Conrad, can we not have the individuals who were assigned to those grants give us a little overview? And if we have any questions about them, we could ask like Mr. Addison was in charge of Focus on the Masters and how that
Okay,
grant, could we
sure.
do it? That, so at least we have that part
Sure.
covered when we get into the discussion about some of the issues tonight?
Which one is Focus?
Number 2.
Right. Well, I don't really have anything to add to the grant request. It was, it matches all of our requirements in terms of information. It's a very well-established program with its own 501c3 process, and it's an art program that, again, is integrated into the schools. So it serves not only the artists who are first-rate, as you saw in the application, and in that sense helps nourish the arts in our community, but it also, importantly in my view, takes art into the schools. And so I have nothing to add to that.
Okay.
It's a first-rate proposal in my view.
okay, you got Christine?
And I will say that one thing that I was unclear about is, and I also think Focus on the Masters was unclear about, is that usually with grant applications, there is no presentation by the grantee. They're there simply to answer any questions that could pop up. So I think the people that aren't here didn't realize the way that we do it. I just would like to throw that out there.
It's not mandatory. We present that as an option.
Right.
And it's also for the reason that many of our grantees are really beginning the grant process. And we also offer a workshop where
I
we
do know
help
that,
people
yes.
with that. And this year we didn't have any people show up for that. It is an arduous thing to write grants, and so we're trying to help people have an experience. And so for many people, it's
Okay.
an entry into that area.
And,
It's tonight.
Yes.
yeah, and one of the things that we ask each of you, because I'm on the grants committee with Roger, one of the things that we ask each of you to do with your assigned grants is to call the person and tell them, tonight's the night or tomorrow night's the night, please show up. It's in your best interest to show up because I've been assigned your grant, but I can't advocate for you. All I can do is help you know what's missing, but you can't add anything. But other commissioners may have questions for you.
Right.
So, if you make those calls and they don't come, or they can't come, well, that's kind of the way the ball bounces. But it has never been mandatory, and I think it's something the grant committee really needs to talk about, whether or not we should not have a mandatory appearance and whether or not we should not have a mandatory workshop, because we've got problems this year with the way these were filled out.
Yes.
And we haven't had that in a while. This is the first time in
Yeah,
a while.
well, I think in the case where we've had problems, they haven't presented grants before us.
Yeah,
like,
which is why being at the workshop would be such a great idea for them. And maybe it could be required if it's your first time, I don't know. But I do have a question on this one, Michael.
Yes.
And it bleeds over onto the other question. If you notice number 14, the total cost, focus on the masters, the budget for learning to see is $87,950. And I am going to strongly say that we have never had the matching funds and the total funds have to be the total project cost. We have always understood that this could be a portion of the budget, and this is a good example of how that plays out. So that other grant that came up was perfectly fine.
Oh, I
The
agree.
5,500 matched the 5,500, and the total cost was more. That's okay.
Right, I agree.
So, sorry. Sorry to
That's the way that
disagree.
I understood
Chair
the grant when I
Conrad.
was reading them.
Yeah, me too. Okay, anything else on Focus of the Masters? Okay.
No.
Okay,
Christine.
Christine, would you like to do Lineage Dance Company?
Did all of you also get a copy of the CD?
No, you're the only one.
So I'm really unclear. I mean, I think this was a great, I think it's a good grant. I don't know like how positive I can be or how negative, but the CD was very informative. They are definitely professional dancers with a contemporary twist, very well trained, as someone who did a lot of dance when I was young. So I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say, really. I'm unclear what I can say and what I can't say.
I think at this point you can say anything you want to say, because this is our occasion to review and present information about the grant.
Okay, so I
what you
think
just
it's
said is fine.
a great proposal. Kim Hoy, writing a letter of recommendation, carries a lot of weight with me. I've taken classes with Kim. She's a good teacher, really cares about her students. And the financial information is good. They're very professional. Did you guys get this as well?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's.
Okay. All right, the final one was the Ojai Chorus. They normally show up. Heather Strobel was the commissioner in charge on that. Basically, we've supported the Ojai Chorus for many years, and of course, they can only do it 3 years in a row, and then they have to take a time out. And it's a very worthwhile program, and basically hits the seniors. Like a lot of the programs we have right now are geared more towards young students, and this one particularly does a lot of seniors in the valley, as well as some young people too in that. So it's a very worthwhile program that we've supported for a long time now.
And we are not over the 3 years in a row here.
Correct. We're, all the grantees are following that rule very,
Okay, so
very
is this the
well.
third year, this one?
I think it may well be.
It might be, I'm not sure. Let's see where I have, oh, here we go. So, yeah, they were last year, they were in 2015, and they were off on 2014.
Oh, okay. So this is the second year in the next cycle then, okay.
Well, it'd be actually their third.
Third year in the cycle.
Oh, it is the third,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know how to do that. Okay, so just so I write that down.
And just
Oh.
for people on television, basically what we try to do is have them take a timeout because we're mainly trying to have them reach out and get funds others so that we try not to be the only source of funds for them. And we also encourage the people to use whatever clout us giving a grant does for helping them get monies from other organizations or individuals. So, anyway, I think that completes it.
Okay.
I do have a question. And this one bullet point, the purpose of the grant program is not to subsidize ongoing expenses related to an artist's career or already established projects. I'm not sure what already established projects means because half of these, 75%, are technically already established projects. So was that meant to read that way? Am I misinterpreting it? I'm unclear.
Well, I think the reason for that was that which happens with a lot of grants, aren't interested in covering operating expenses.
That's what it meant.
Yeah, and so we're not trying to just cover the rent and cover that we're really trying to have people pick a new project. So even though they're an ongoing organization, we generally like to have them cherry pick something that is unique. And, like, for instance, we've done grants for the music festival, and they've always picked some new kind of outlay. Sometimes it's a free concert, sometimes it's for a special group that our grant money allows that to happen.
Thank you.
Okay. So next meeting in November, we will be making the decision. So you need to bring all your applications with you and any other questions, and hopefully we'll have the other materials and be able to discuss it at that.
So are we going to, so we are going to allow the other materials even though it didn't come in by the deadline? I guess we are?
Well, we can discuss that. That's, I think, really our decision to do it. And I'm leaning towards doing it. It needs to be discussed, but I think particularly as we're trying to train people to do this, to just cut people off because of a technicality or an oversight, we have to figure how important that oversight is to do it, because we are trying to help promote the arts and to help present people, but we also want to be fair to the other applicants too. So this needs to be discussed in the open meeting.
I think in the cases that we've dealt with this evening, much of it is just technicalities. And I think that the other thing to keep in mind is that it's crucial that people meet the deadline to submit the application.
Right.
That, I think, is very clearly understood, and we've been very precise about that. It would be radically unfair if we let people come in after that deadline. But if there's some technicality, I think we have enough flex room because we describe these as guidelines. And that implies, it seems to me, that they give us guidance. They're not rules and dictates.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have a little bit of flexibility there.
Yeah.
I would like to add to that in the past, we did, or we decided that we were unable to accept a grant. But in that case, the information would have had to been substantially altered. The amount of money they were asking for, how they were going to get the grant. In other words, they almost had to rewrite the grant. But that's not the case.
No, that's
in both
unacceptable.
of these cases, in one case, the wrong fiscal receiver. It was, just one of those things when the first time you write a grant, you didn't really process that. And in the other case, just that total missing and that information. But it's not going to change the grant substantially. So I totally go along with the idea that we could accept this. And then Amber had some ideas about that.
I would just ask that the commission put a date deadline on by what date the City Hall would have need to receive those items in order to be taken into consideration.
Well, let's say by the end of the next work week, okay? This is a Thursday, so that by the following Friday, that gives them time to get in touch with volunteer treasurers and things like that. These are not, after all, big professional organizations. They're largely dependent on volunteers. So let's cut them a little slack and say that we have to have the information by the end of next week.
May I have consensus from the commission?
Is that consensus?
Yeah,
Yes?
I would like to add, though, that I think the person who is, kind of the liaison with that particular applicant, call them or contact them and let them know that that deadline has been set. Because,
great
Well, the one that I talked to tonight, I said, we need it tomorrow.
Right.
So I'm not going to change that. I
Okay.
think it should come tomorrow. I mean, we're really bending here to allow them to do it at all.
Yeah.
I think it has to come in, you don't have consensus from me. I think it should come in tomorrow.
Is that a?
Well, it could be difficult if the person's out of town or something.
Yeah, so let's have a motion, please. Roger, if you would move to set the deadline for these materials.
Okay, let's see, we need a,
It's, end of the next work week is October 28th.
October what?
October 28th is next Friday.
Okay, all right, then I move that we, for the additional information that we requested, that it be in by October 28th.
Is there a second for that? Commissioner Balderman seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
I'm abstaining.
One abstention?
Okay.
No.
And,
You're voting no?
Yeah.
we still have 3-5, so
Okay, we have 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstaining,
Oh,
so
opposed.
the motion carries.
Okay.
All right, anything else to
All
do
right.
with the grants?
We did have just one other thing that I talked to the city manager, and he agreed that we could extend the Heidi Druckler grant to occur in January.
Good.
And so I've contacted Kim Hoy, and she was delighted, and that will happen.
Good.
And that completes the grants.
Good, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the proposal for a joint Arts Commission and City Council meeting on November 15th. I will be out of the country at the time, so I would prefer it be some other time, if that can be arranged, but that's just my preference. So, Amber, do you have thoughts on this for us?
I do. I would suggest that if we can have it on a meeting in November or December, it would be preferential, as each commission takes its turn within the quarter. And so I think it's going to be easier to schedule with the council if we do that. I would ask for a moment so I can go grab their holiday schedule, because they've shifted some meetings around in November, December. If you would
Fine.
excuse me a moment.
Sure.
Shall we have a musical interlude?
Yes, would you favor us, please?
Ray, how about some flute music while we're waiting?
That's why you needed to call me.
So we don't actually vote till next.
Right.
next meeting.
Right.
Oh. So we're just gonna hang out with these guys for another month.
Well, you bring those next week.
Okay.
Next
Next month.
Yeah,
bring
and then we'll debate.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
This is what they call dead air time. We need to be telling jokes or doing something because this is being videotaped even as we speak.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Facebook Live, yeah. I could give you a report on the New York theater scene if you want that.
Sounds good.
It was good. Three out of 4 were terrific. The fourth one was very strange. But
The 15th and the 29th.
of November?
November, we moved the dates. Sorry. And now, Amber, I got it now.
So it's moved to the 29th?
Yes.
Terrific.
Amber, I got it.
Do you have a calendar with you?
Yeah, it's in my phone.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. I told her already.
My apologies. So the upcoming council meetings will be on November 15th, the 29th, and the 13th of December.
So could we zero in on the 29th?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
It's dependent on the commission's wish. There is not another special meeting scheduled that night at 6 p.m.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with the 29th? Okay.
What time?
Yes, sir.
That will be at 6 p.m.
And the topics to be covered, those are of our choosing. I would suggest that we simply give the city council a quick update on our various programs. I think we're fully engaged in everything from the book on Ojai architecture to student mentors and so on. So I think each committee chair can report briefly, and we will consolidate that with a heartfelt thanks to the council and a plea for continued support.
Chair Addison, I would like to suggest that if it has not yet been decided that we make a case for B, 5-member commission recommendation at that time, and that you, as our chair, would be the correct person to make an impassioned plea that they do not put this commission from 7 to 5.
Well, I would certainly agree with that, and it relates to what I just said, and that is that we are a very active commission, and we're active in generating projects and sustaining projects, and I don't think that's going to change. So I think to cut it down to 5 people would frankly be onerous, almost beyond the point where one could legitimately ask people to volunteer the amount of time and energy that's involved. So I will certainly make that plea. You can be sure.
Can council person Severo, can you comment on what the timeline is on city council making a decision about that? No, we can't.
No, there just isn't a timeline.
There's no timeline.
There's no timeline?
No, there's no timeline.
Okay,
We
so there's
just
no
wanted to
rush, like
make sure-
it's going to happen before we get a chance to say, no.
So, yeah, before we even deliberated, we wanted to have the feedback of all the commission
Good,
and the
good.
board. Well,
Okay.
commissions, because the board is not.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
In order for a commission to take up any kind of policy, and whether it be in the municipal code or otherwise, it needs to be so directed by the city council to do so. So if the commission would like to address any policy or ordinances within the next year, they may want to bring that up at the joint meeting.
Would you explain what you just said, please?
Oh, good. I thought it was just me.
Good for you, Christine, but I didn't
I was
understand.
trying to make it vague enough.
The chair of the Public Art Committee understood what she's saying. I don't know that we're going to be ready to do that for next year. Because what Amber's really referring to is that because of all the development that is occurring at this time, and some of it's been on the books for a while, but all of a sudden it's popping open, the Public Art Committee is very busy. And as part of that, we have found places in the ordinance that are, that need a look. And I've talked to the Public Art Committee members, Michael and Roger, about that, and we want to start meeting with Amber and Kathleen Wold from Planning in January, so I don't think we're going to be ready.
No, so what I meant to imply was that in order to even open that conversation about an ordinance, the commission and the committee needs to be directed by the city council. The commissions aren't intended to touch policy without
do that?
direction from the council.
Okay.
How do we do that?
So you bring it up at the joint meeting.
Bring it up at the joint meeting that we would like to look at the ordinance? Okay, and that would become under public art, so I'll do that. Thank you, Amber, so much. Thank you. Saving me again. Gotta write it down.
Thank you for picking up what I put down.
I knew it had something to do with public art.
Okay.
So we're
All right.
asking permission? Okay.
So we'll follow through on that, and we can move on now to the Artist Mentor Program. And
I apologize, just
Yes.
so that I'm clear when I go to develop the joint meeting agenda for the 29th, that we will have an update on programs given by the committee chairs, a 5-member commission recommendation, and the public art ordinance. Is that clear for the
That is
agenda?
correct.
Great, thank you.
yes. Okay, the Artist Mentor Program, of course, we typically have a reception for the student artists in November at our November meeting. So we have that to look forward to, and Commissioner Stobo is in charge of that, and she's not here. So I will be in touch with her, and we will arrange to have that reception. And typically that begins at 5:30 before that 6:30 meeting of the Arts Commission. Okay, City Gallery Committee is also Commissioner Stobo, so we don't have a report on that. Bobby, can you fill in, please?
Yes, what we did, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago, we took the work from storage over here in City Hall, took it over to the museum, and that was Roger and Heather and myself. We took it all over there. I think we might, do we have anything left here, Roger, do you know?
Yes, there are a few pieces.
Yeah, I think there's just a few pieces.
Sherry Lower in the hall, or in the chamber right here is one of them, and there's a few in the closet yet.
Yeah, and then I think we mentioned this last meeting, but we do have some pieces of Christine Brennan's here, and then we also have some over at the museum, so people can see her work in both locations. And we've been working more closely with the museum than ever before. It's been wonderful. And Roger, I don't know if you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, actually, because also Linda Harmon asked me to talk about the acquisitions aspect of it. And one of the things that we did was to reframe a number of items. Some had really hideous frames on, and we couldn't bring ourselves to display them, and we've been very pleased with those things that have been done. Also, the museum discovered some things, like we have an extremely large Bert Collins that generally Bert works relatively small, but we have some pieces that are about this, or one piece that's about this big, and we got that framed, and we reframed some of the museum pieces too. So we have approximately 60 pieces in what we're calling a United Collection. And what's interesting is that both the museum has about 30 pieces and the city has about 30 pieces in that collection. And what we're hoping to do is to basically keep those collections together and in concert add to it. Like the museum has an acquisition program, and of course the city has an acquisition program. So what we're hoping to do with the exhibit that it's at the museum right now is to see what holes we have in that joint collection. And so I really urge all the citizens to come take a look at that and see what both the museum and the city has collected for us.
Yeah, the exhibit is really a breakthrough, I think, in many respects, in that it is this great fusion of two collections that, there's a synergy here that is powerful in and of itself, but indeed the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And this, again, is going to be an ongoing program, and Roger and Commissioner Harmon and Commissioner Stobo have all been very actively engaged in this project for months now, and it's been a lot of physical work, quite apart from the excitement of discovering things.
Right.
But it is, I think, a really important breakthrough achievement on the part of the commission and the museum. And it's remarkable, I think, that we've been able to blend so harmoniously. It really, it's the sort of thing, there could have been territorial squabbles and God knows what else, but that just isn't happening, and that speaks so well for all of those involved. All right, we will go on now to the Public Relations Committee. We'll start off with heartfelt thanks to you, Christina, for you've been cranking it out.
Well, not as much as I hope to in the future, but thank you. I did write a press release, and Amber was wonderful to get it out. And as Citizen Burn, I also put a bunch of photographs on Facebook and social media about the installation. And yesterday, I actually was at the museum talking about the collection to, and this is kind of public relations, to a bunch of visitors from out of town who requested to come to the museum. And Linda Harmon was going to do it, but she's out of town, and she recommended me, and it was a lot of fun. And I've got to tell you, it's anybody that's watching this, it is a jewel. I had pointed out to these people that Beatrice Wood, as many of us know, that character in Titanic was kind of based on her. But what a lot of people don't know is one time I heard Beatrice Wood's voice at an archive, and I thought it was that actress. I thought somebody was playing the movie. So I realized the actress must have really studied Beatrice Wood's inflections. So, and these people were Hollywood people. So it was just, it's so wonderful that we have such an important connection in all these different art. And both collections, as you said, are fantastic. So that's what I've been doing.
Good. Well, thank you. The Awards Committee, we're coming up now on the Lifetime Achievement Award, and I want to pass out to each of you a list of the previous recipients. Okay. And a copy of the list that we've developed over the past couple of years of possible awardees, potential awardees. Now, this, of course, is just to spur your imagination, because you may well want to come up with. Pass me one of those as well, would you please? Thanks. You may well want to bring to our meeting next month alternate or additional suggestions. The criteria, remember, is that this is an award given to someone who is a member of our Ojai community, I think pretty broadly defined within the Ojai Valley, but it is for a lifetime achievement in the arts. And you'll notice that this is included already a wide range of people, everything from a gallery owner, arts entrepreneur, Khaled Al-Anwar, actors, Donna Granada for her focus on the masters, all the way back to Beatrice Wood, who was the first nominee. So give this some thought, if you would. That will be a major item for discussion and decision at our November meeting.
Wow. They all look great.
They do, I know. It's not easy. And I think what we will do at that meeting is come up with a short list and then perhaps have a month in between, having come up with that short list of perhaps 5, for each of us to give that some thought and to dig further into the backgrounds of the people that we're discussing, so that we really do make an informed choice, and we'll make our final decision then in December. Questions?
May we send names to you?
Please do, yes. Yeah, send any suggestions you have to me before the next meeting, and I'll bring amended or added to list to the next meeting for our discussion before we pare it down to a short list.
Also, are we, in the past, we were given a sheet on each one of these folks that we had the information in front of us, but that went to, we had to do it on our own on the internet. Are we going to stick with the?
We're going to stick with doing it on our own.
On
Yeah,
our own, on
all
the
of us
internet?
can use Google, and it's very easy, and there's no point in generating a lot of paper because everybody can do the research themselves.
So we should do that before the next meeting?
Well, either that or you can wait until the short list is developed at the next meeting and then dig in.
Yeah, but one of the ways to come up with the short list is to have looked at all these people.
Well, by all means, spend
So
the time.
we should do
and
it
look them up.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do your research. Do your homework. Okay?
And
I know you will. Christine?
I don't know if I can say this, but some of them might not be as Googleable. For example, Virginia Crone, but I do know that she was documented by Focus on the Masters, and the information about her is available in the archive there. And same with a few of these Ted Gall, so I don't know if I can say.
I think we can find the information, if not immediately, certainly in time for our final considerations.
Right, right.
Yes.
Who is on the awards committee now?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Oh, Roger.
You are, I know.
Do you know who
but
the third one is?
I don't remember
Is it
who
me?
the third one is.
It might be me.
And I don't have the list in front of me.
Okay, all right.
Sorry. We only meet once a year, so.
I know.
All right. Let's move on now to public art. Commissioner Golden, if you will, please.
Well, as much as I would like to get going on that, I see that we had one of our grantees come back, and I would be willing to put this aside and let them go ahead if it's okay with the chair.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Thank you.
Ms. Nguyen, would you like to introduce your cohort, please?
Office manager, Jesse, and he's brought the financials, which he understands much better than I.
Yes.
Thanks for reopening this.
These are going that way.
Okay. This is for our next discussion in public art.
I was watching the Dodgers.
Oh.
He said if they hadn't been doing so badly, he wouldn't have picked up the phone.
Oh, they are?
Down 2 runs now in the 7th. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Just with a quick glance, I think this more than answers our questions about the
Yes.
Film Society.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're definitely financially solvent.
Clearly.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks so much, Kitty, for taking the extra effort. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, let's continue now with public art, please. Ms.
Yes. Okay, hang on. Don't get me all nervous, Michael. Wrong folder. Well, the first thing that I would like to bring up is that I am requesting that staff call for a meeting of the committee to approve public art as soon as possible. We have several things that I believe are critical for the committee to approve public art to discuss and then make a recommendation back to the Arts Commission or not, depending on what it is. One is the art wall that Doug Lochner asked to modify, and in violation of the Brown Act, 3 of the Kappa group through email said, go ahead, and then we found out we really can't do that, we have to have a meeting to do that. So that was my bad to send that around, but we want to correct that and get that going in the right way. The other thing that Kappa really needs to discuss, and this happened 2 days ago, very quickly, a call came in from Brian Skaggs at the Ojai Valley Inn and Spa. They really are looking to have their building permit given to them, and have a plan. However, although I was called over to City Hall very quickly, and I met with Brian and Amber and Kathleen Wold, I can't on my own say to move forward or not to move forward, and I believe we need CAPA to do this. Now, at the time, you know, I think all of us always want to be as amenable as possible and not ever get in the way of a development going forward. But we do have an ordinance, and there are reasons for not granting a building permit prior to the CAPA having met with the developer and seeing fully what the plan is. This is a really interesting situation that we find ourselves in, or that the Public Art Committee and the Committee to Approve Public Art finds itself in, because the Inn does have a plan. It's not a plop art plan. They have very carefully taken a look at what they can do in the area of public art that would augment this project that they're doing, which is a redo of the whole front entrance of the Inn. And Brian Skaggs brought along beautiful blueprints and went through that. So my inclination was to say, sure, let's go forward, especially since the Inn said, we'll give you the money. And it wasn't until I got home that night, and it was like, whoa, Christine, wait a minute. If you do that, you're nicking and poking at the ordinance, because the whole reason for the rewrite of the ordinance was that the art has to come first. It's not an afterthought. So if we do that for the Inn, we set precedent. So if we do it, we at least have to have a statement saying this is not precedent setting. But I really don't think that this body should make that decision. I think CAPA needs to meet and make that decision and bring it back to the Arts Commission. Inn's not going to be happy because that's time, you know, the time whittling
But
away. We only have a monthly meeting.
they have worked with us before, and they know what the ordinance is. They are not, some person who's never developed anything before. In fact, just recently, they went through the whole process with CAPA.
Yeah.
So they know exactly what the process is. And as you say, Christine, the strength of that ordinance is really built on the fact that public art is important in this community, and that developers have to show what the public art is going to be before the building permit is issued. That's the given now in Ojai. And it's strong, and it's clear, and it's remarkable, and it's, I think, strongly supported by the community and by the council, because it means that we're not going to have things go awry as they had in the past before this ordinance was strengthened. So I think it would be a great mistake. Expediting a meeting of CAPA, that falls in our powers. And if we could possibly do that, Ms. Young, we would, of course, appreciate it. I'm sure the Inn would as well. So that's the next step.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear
Please.
on what you want.
Please.
So my understanding is that you would like for CAPA to meet when the Inn is ready with their full and complete public art proposal, or you would like for CAPA to meet to discuss allowing the bonding check and the building permits to be issued with the approval from CAPA after the fact. I'm not saying one way or the other. I just want to make sure I understand I'm wanting to understand what you're wanting from CAPA.
Yeah, and thank you for clarifying it, because Amber has really very clearly said what the issue is. CAPA could meet and consider letting the Inn go forward outside the parameters of the ordinance in this one case, because they have identified where the art will go and what they want it to be. They just haven't got the artist yet. Or we can stick to the rules of the ordinance and say, we really wanted to do that for you, but we think it's dangerous to do it, so we have to go with the usual procedure, which is you've got to get your artist, you've got to come to a CAPA meeting and make a full presentation. And we don't have anything on the agenda to allow us to take a vote on this tonight. But so, I think it's just direction, We can do that, right, Amber, without it being on the agenda, that we could get some direction. I'm the chair of CAPA and the Public Art Committee. I need direction from the rest of you. I don't want to make this call on my own. I've talked to Michael about it. He's on the Public Art Committee.
I believe that as the project is, probably get a call from the city attorney tomorrow morning. I believe as the project is specifically listed to be discussed, and it's under discussion and action items, the commission could speak to the direction it would like to see CAPA, what it would like to see CAPA consider.
Right.
Was that clear?
Well, I'd just like to hear everybody weigh in. I would really like to hear everyone weigh in on this. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll speak because I very strongly believe that the ordinance is clear. The inn knows what the ordinance is. I think as a courtesy, we can have a CAPA meeting as soon as possible, and that they simply must follow the ordinance. I see no reason to deviate from what the ordinance requires.
I would agree with that because I think it sets a bad precedence, even though it is the Ojai Valley Inn, it shouldn't matter. That we have an ordinance, you worked hard on that ordinance, and it should be followed.
Christine, your thoughts?
I can see both sides. And I guess that's what I'm kind of weighing and considering. I agree with Michael, but then Commissioner Addison,
Michael is fine.
But I also understand the Ojai Valley Inn and Spa's position, especially since they are going to put art there. And I don't think I know enough about them and the history of how their development has happened to really weigh in. I can.
Roger? Who is also on the Public Art Committee. So.
I think we've discussed it
well. Well, I want to point out that if we go, because certainly the consensus here seems to be that they need to do what the ordinance says. Mm-hmm. That if we go that way, it isn't a question of Amber calling a CAPA meeting quickly. It's a question of the inn finding an artist and developing a proposal and getting all their ducks in a row before the building permit is issued. And that probably is going to require a call to Brian Skaggs to let him know that the commission wasn't comfortable with going forward with the in lieu as a reason for the building permit to be issued. So I'm also torn. I just want to say, Christine, I am so torn on this I could cry. I could really cry over it. It's such a hard thing because you just don't ever want to be in that position where something can't go forward. And of course, the Arts Commission is the bad guy.
Right. No, I would take issue with that. I don't think
Good.
the Arts Commission is the bad guy at all. There's an ordinance which has legal weight and value, and it was derived after months of work by you and others as a consequence of the fact that there had been several instances where public art had sort of glided and elided and building permits had been issued, and all of a sudden, oh, where's the public art? It wasn't there. Oh, well, we've already hired a painter. We're going to put some paintings up inside the building in question. This was not done casually. This was done with an enormous amount of thought for a very specific reason to prevent that sort of egregious ignoring of the city's commitment to public art. And I think we have to defend this. I really do.
May I ask, and I'm stepping outside of my role as a staff liaison a little bit, well, quite a bit, if the commission has considered, and I'm not advocating one direction or another, I'm just wondering if the inn is in a larger hurry to get through the CAPA process, is the city and the commission and the committee potentially not getting as high of a quality or maybe as local of an artist as it may have liked because it's in such a large hurry?
I suppose that's a risk we run, yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to speak to that because when all is said and done, the inn will have to step forward to the Kappa and make a presentation, and that, and this is for Christine to know since you're new, the Kappa consists of Michael Addison, Roger, and myself, because we're on the Public Art Committee. And then there is a public art expert that is brought in, and I will talk to you about the person. We have lost Mimi Moore, so we're going to be asking Barbara Hirsch if it's okay with everybody to step into that place. And then we have some alternates as well, but Barbara Hirsch should be I think, the choice for this for the reason that Susan Amen may be tapped for this project. And so it just makes sense. And Pamela Grau did art at the end, so it just makes sense for Barbara to be the one. And also there's a new member from the Planning Commission, Chester, who's been appointed to the Kappa Committee. So they can do it in a hurry, but we will not accept it if it isn't good. I mean, we'll just say, no, go back. So, and I don't think there's going to be an issue with that. I will tell you from the conversation with Brian that one of his concerns was that it was a quality artist and that the piece would remain in place and it would be a marker for the inn. It would be they really have thought it out. They want it to be right. And of course they do. It's the inn. So I don't think we're going to have that issue in this case, Amber. I think we'll be fine. They'll come back with a dynamite. I mean, Hail Mary, they'll come back with a dynamite.
Sure they will.
So,
any further discussion on this issue? I don't think so.
No, we can move on now. I did that long one first. So, while we have that meeting, Amber, would it make sense to also have on the agenda to discuss the Doug lot? Because the 5 of us will be together. So can I work with you on an agenda for that Kappa meeting when it is finally scheduled? Okay, well, then we'll just have one meeting. All right, so we did that. 3. Deposit, I understand that a deposit came in from the Becker group, which is the group that is working on Cottages Among the Flowers. And we're trying to find out whether or not that is just being held there pending this exact same thing we just talked about. Presentation to the committee to approve public art. Do you know, did you find out?
My understanding is that the payment that you're referring to is actually fulfillment of part of the funding for the Libby Park playground piece.
No, that's the Craftsman Village that funded that. This is the Becker Group one.
Yes, the Becker Group I'm not familiar with, but the Craftsman Village is the only payment that I'm familiar with.
Okay,
and
so that may have been just a oversight or the way I read the email. I'll go back and check it, thank you.
And I'll go back and check too.
Okay, yeah, we'll both check it, okay. So I'm putting here relook. All right, thank you, Amber.
I apologize for being
I would like everyone to know that Michael Addison is going to look into the situation with our plaques for public art. We have some places where we don't have a plaque anymore, such as the Matilla Hapapi Fountain, and we want to look and see where did we get these plaques in the past, and do we want uniformity? This all came up when we talked about how we were going to do signage for the Lochner piece in Libby Park. So we're going to have a report on that in the near future, I hope. And I also want to tell you that Roger is going to collaborate with Linda Harmon on creating an archive that will be digital, so that we have record of all the public art pieces, the date they were acquisitioned, or whatever that word is, blah, 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 and the value of it, and attach the RFP if there was one. For example, Libby Park, there was one. All the documents that need to be attached to that. And I hope that, Christine, we can call on you, since you've worked in this before, on making sure that we have all the right checklist of what we should have in that document. And then we think there should be a hard copy at City for Amber, or whoever Amber, I hope, the liaison, and a hard copy for the chair. So that's something we're working on. Also, we're beginning to look into the possibility. I had a talk with Wendy Barker, and Christine is someone else who I'm hoping to work with on a public art tour that might actually be downloadable on an iPhone, so that people could actually take a tour starting with the Ojai Valley Inn and Spa. And there are 3 zones right now in the city that would be incredible public art tours. So that's something we're talking about doing in the future. Libby Park. We had a wonderful ribbon running through by 5-year-olds at Libby Park, led by the young girl, Faye, who the project was named after originally, Fun for Faye, which is Doug Lochner's granddaughter. The piece has been renamed Fun for All, Democracy. But it was really wonderful, and we had a nice little crowd, and Amber made sure that we had something to speak into, and people were just smiling, and it's a wonderful thing to see, and Roger has taken incredible pictures of this. All the people who climb all over that lizard, adults and children, they just love that piece, and it looks like it's always been there. I think that this is such a success for our Arts Commission, this piece of public art. And Severo was there, and Mayor Blatz was there, and we really thank the city council members who came out and showed their support for that little piece of public art. There is a stage 2, and Public Art Committee will be discussing it. We are talking, or Doug is talking, about applying pennies onto the lizard to create a skin for the lizard, the scales, and it's going to be tricky. We have already had Parks and Recreation talk to us about being willing to head up, work with us on the penny piece, the penny procedure, but in addition to that, the art wall. When the art wall goes up, Parks and Rec will be the conduit to the school to have teachers sign up. But it's not just the school, because there are other people in Ojai that are teaching art to kids and doing incredible things, like, for example, Janice Hansen. We'd love to have some of their displays in the art wall when it finally goes up. So stay tuned for part 2 of our very successful Libby Park public art.
Public comment on these things?
When does that happen? After?
It could happen right now.
Sure.
As soon as Christine is finished, if you're finished.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I have a couple more
Hold on
things.
just a moment, Ray.
Okay. It's coming, though. Soon. The next item is, and please, everybody, please email us or me or the three of us or whatever. We're still looking at a project site for expending our public art funds. We need a public space that can be devoted to a piece. We have funds in the public art fund. We agreed to take money instead of having art. So it's up to us now. The onus is on us to do public art. And, let's find a place to do it. Suggestions. Some of the suggestions have been the site of the theater building, which is controversial, to say the least. Other suggestions have been that we do utility boxes, as has been done in other cities. And we're certainly open to other places that are public spots. And the last item is Bryan Street. We're not going to put that on the agenda for our joint meeting with the city because Michael and Roger and I will be meeting with Amber, hopefully in the not-too-distant future, to talk about the possibilities of what to do. The piece now, and we're talking about Reflections of Ojai, which happens to be another piece by Doug Lochner. It is in such condition now that we really have to look seriously at what we're going to do about this piece of art. We don't have an artist that wants to repair it. They feel it's Doug's piece. We have a developer that apparently would prefer to work with a different artist, and so we're at we've locked horns. And I think we're going to have to be creative in deciding what to do about that piece of art that no longer is something where we would want to put on a tour map. And the last thing is, I think we already mentioned that we're looking at updating the ordinance, and I'm glad to know that had to go first to council. So I know it was a lot. I tried to go fast.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Ray, you have thoughts?
I do. It came out of a conversation I had a few days ago with someone. So first I want to commend you because yeah, the public art that Doug put in with the lizard and ladybug is pretty amazing. Even the way they got it in there was pretty amazing. I was speaking with Doug, and he spoke to me about putting the pennies on the lizard. And I said, well, that'll look cool. And then I started thinking about oxidation and that it's copper. And then I was having, out of the blue, it came up with a conversation a couple days later with someone who brought up the environmental concerns of heavy metals going into the water table, copper being one of them. And if there's a lot of pennies on there, and if we're fortunate to get rain, and as they oxidize and as they deteriorate, that copper may go into the ground. Is that an environmental consideration? I hadn't thought of that, and it made sense when I had the dialogue with
I would
someone.
encourage you to have another conversation with Doug, because I think he would listen to that. He'd be interested in that.
Yes, I think that's an engineer's.
Yeah, it's,
And I think there's some state regulations regarding heavy metals and water supplies and things like that. So I don't want to set ourselves up, and I don't know. I'm bringing up the topic.
well, thank you. Thank you for that
I don't know how to
information.
get a hold of Doug, so I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, one thing is that the pennies are encapsulated. They're not going to be exposed to the surface.
So they're not exposed to water or air or anything.
No.
Right. I think the argument could be made that, that surface could be penetrated, and that would be the discussion, I think.
Do you know what they're encapsulated in?
Doug would know that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not being a watchdog or anything. It was just an interesting conversation I had and made me go,
Okay.
It'd be good to have that discussion before we put them on.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, art acquisitions, again, we don't have Linda Harmon here. Roger, do you have?
Yeah, actually, I don't think
That's
there's any
her
more. She
second
wanted me to
information.
update what was
Yeah.
happening with the museum and our collection
That was
here.
it. Okay. Then the remaining item on our agenda before we go to staff liaison and hearing from Councilman Laura is the Education Committee. Commissioner Balderman.
Okay, well, we've made some, I think, big movement forward because we are very fortunate to have a commitment from Craig Walker to write the content for the book, and he is going to share the responsibility because Mark Lewis is going to be the editor. And we are very excited about that. And then Donna Granada is, even though Brooks is no longer existing and she was going to use students from Brooks to help her with the project, I've been in touch with her and she said, nope, she's still interested and still wants to move forward. Now, having said all that, that kind of unfortunately raises the budget a little bit because we have some new expenses that we didn't anticipate. It's not unsurmountable, but certainly there are new expenses. So having that in mind, we are planning on doing our little fundraising event in January. We're still working on setting that date. You will be notified when that is. And so once we have that done, I think we'll be in a better position to, looking at the money that we have from the city, from our budget, knowing what exists, plus what we take in, then we can really finally get going on the final production of this book.
And it appears, too, that the timing will work out so that with Craig Walker and Donna working with the committee, on shaping the content of the book and actually making the final selection of which pieces of architecture are going to be represented, that then we'll be able to have this fundraising event in, we think, January or early February, and that then will enable us to kick it forward so that on, we hope, Ojai Day of 2017 can be the release date for the book. That's our goal. So that it would combine with that centennial celebration on Ojai Day of 2017. So shoulders to the wheel, off we go, and try and make this happen. Anything else? No? Okay. Amber Young, you are wearing so many hats, but tonight you have the Arts Commission hat, and you have a report from us, I think, on the Libby Bowl.
I do, and I will speak to just a couple of other things really quickly as the commission isn't
making decisions. I hope that's all right. I did want to say thank you to everybody for your work on Art Town. It was really lovely to be able to feature that in the insert for Ojai Day. I really love it when when organizations use Ojai Day as a kickoff event. It's really lovely way to use our community celebration to spread the love and whatnot. Anyhow, that being said, I would also like to thank the commission very much for your patience as I've gone through this very busy season, and I'm looking forward to gathering my horses back up and getting everything moving along smoothly once again. The Libby Bowl, as Ojai Day has just wrapped up, for the most part, the Libby Bowl season will be wrapping up this Saturday with a benefit for the Community Memorial Hospital featuring Don Felder. Their ticket sales are going very well. And that will conclude the 2017 season. The season for 2016 has been divided up per the contract with Sterling Venue Ventures. So the city is now controlling 26 weeks of the calendar, and Sterling is controlling 26 weeks of the calendar. They are required to do a minimum of 10 shows and a maximum of 17. We have already been in conversations with two not new organizations, but organizations that did not use the facility in 2016, which I'm very excited about. Ojai Group's bringing them back into the facility. And the Libby Bowl Arts and Festivals Committee, or Libby Bowl Committee, or however you want to refer to it. I've knowingly been calling it the OLBAFC. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to let it go yet. Is discussing potentially requesting from the council extending their mission in order to be able to observe a little bit longer now that the Sterling contract is in place and whatnot. So that's where we're at with that.
Any questions about any of that? Okay. I just would like to add that the members of that committee that Amber just referred to have in fact been going to all of these different events and observing and taking notes. And one of the things that I think is going to be of value coming out of that will be, we think, a set of protocols, if you will, so that we will deal with issues of what ushers should wear, what sort of training ushers should have, what the space should look like if they're going to put VIP seating down in the front, what it should look like, and all of the elements that will, we hope, lead to events there being first class in every respect, matching the beauty of the bowl. All right, I think we can now turn to Councilmember Lara, who's patiently sat through our meeting.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Addison, point of
Yes.
order. It's commissioner comments before that.
Oh, you're right, but I'm sorry.
That's why I'm here.
I beg your indulgence. My cold is catching up with me. It is commissioner comments first. Do you have any comments, Christine?
Of course.
Why did I ask? Christine, you have 3 minutes.
Start the timer. Well, I just want to add my kudos to the museum show. It is absolutely phenomenal, and there is a highlight in that show, which is the Doug Lochner piece. So anybody in the community that didn't see the lizard come flying in or doesn't know what we're talking about can go take a look over at the museum, because it's highlighted in the alcove. But what a fantastic show. Hats off to everybody that worked on that. The other thing I want to announce is that our former arts commissioner, Susan Stinsmulen-Amend, is having a show at 7 o'clock p.m. I believe it's next Thursday at the Temple in Miners Oaks. Is it Wednesday? Wednesday, thank you, at 7 o'clock p.m. So if you haven't seen Susan's glass panels, please, it's free, open to the public. And Anka Kolber is going to be talking with Susan about the whole process and how those glass panels came about. Bobby wants
Yeah, I was going to add that it's more than just a show. It's really that they really want to talk about the whole process and how those windows came to be and how they ended up at the synagogue. So it's not just a thing where people show up and they look at the windows. I mean, it's a it's a full presentation.
Yeah. So, and then my last item is a request. And in the past, the arts commissioners received agendas in the mail. And I really sorely miss getting an agenda in the mail. I'm not a computer reader. My eyes are extremely, it's really hard for me reading on the computer. And I like a paper and a hard copy for my eyes, and I would really like to go back to where I could get a copy of that mailed to me. Oh, I'm sorry, but I miss it.
Okay. Amber, if you would be able to accommodate, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Amber, I'm sorry.
Is that solely for Commissioner Golden, or?
I don't need it.
I don't want it. Anybody else want paper copy?
Are we talking about just?
Agenda.
Agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can handle that, all right. But we also haven't been getting the minutes.
So the situation with the minutes is as follows. When our records manager resigned her position, I went into full throttle trying to not have a backlog of minutes, and I contracted with a temp organization that's specifically for municipal government, who assured me that they had the perfect person, who completely dropped off the face of the planet. Now we're on our second person, and she's trying to get caught up. So the City Council, the Arts Commission, and the Parks and Recreation Commission minutes are handled by the records manager, and that is why there has not been minutes. I sorely apologize.
It's all right. Things happen.
No problem.
Ms. Baldwin.
Okay, I'm going to do a commercial if it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to tell you that I have, I think it's 10 pieces hanging in the Bank of America. I got a call kind of with a last minute. The artist that was hanging all of a sudden took all his work and left. And so they had an opening for a short time, and so my work is there till the end of October. So just, I'd love it if you guys stop by to see it.
Yes.
Roger, did you have any comments?
Yes, at our last meeting, it was requested of me to contact the Historic Preservation about the mayor's pictures up here.
Right.
And so I contacted Darwin McCready, and he said they're definitely interested in what we might propose for that. And in addition, he said that they have a committee that's looking to redo this room. And so obviously we need to coordinate with that. And so
would you be willing to carry forward on this and work with that committee of theirs?
That's what we'll do. He was very good to deal with. I hadn't had the pleasure of meeting him before, and so it looks like it would be an obvious thing because we have skills that they don't, and vice versa. So, but
and
it'll
an
be
aesthetic sensibility besides.
Yeah, more of a combined effort on looking at this room. Okay.
Great. Okay. Christine, do you have any comments to make?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, now, again with apologies, Councilmember Lara.
I was waiting for your comments, Chair Ashton.
No,
Commissioners,
comment is I wish I didn't have a cold.
Yeah,
so go ahead,
well, you
please.
could have fooled me because you look great and you sound just like your normal self, so I wouldn't have thought that you.
Because I had training as an actor. Don't
believe it. Well, you guys are full with skills, including Miss Young over here. I do want to give kudos. She's worked extremely hard with Ojai Day. I saw her in the evening, and she was there with her shovel, and it's just amazing. Just as her putting on Ojai Day, doing the Libby Bowl subcommittee. I mean, her list of duties and responsibilities that she has taken ever since we've had a shift in staff has been it's just been incredible. I don't know how she does it. But as a commission, I know we have a strong commission because it's still operating in the full cylinders, even though she's been just handling so many things. I think every commissioner in this commission is very active, and it seems like the new commissioner, Byrne is. I love seeing you interacting. I feel like you've been here for a while. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, so it is always good. I have to say, as a council member, when we're dealing with ordinances, and I was there when I was just coming onto council when the Arts Commission was straightening that ordinance, and I saw them work extremely hard to make sure that that ordinance was clear and people knew the process. So it was delightful to hear that this commission is still wanting the applicants to follow the process, which I am a huge advocate just to begin with. So I appreciate that deliberation and where it ended tonight. As far as the council, we are doing some kind of yearly updates. We're doing some second units, possibly some new laws that came into effect, seeing how it affects our second unit ordinance. We are still talking about water. The mayor has proposed another type of moratorium. We've already discussed it. I'm curious to see if he has any new findings that we didn't find the first time that we deliberated that about putting a moratorium on new development and pools, etc. I do have to say we do have on here still the city council priority list. We have not gone to it the whole year, but it's still on there. It's been kind of a crazy year, but I think that we are trying to get stuff done this year. Again, we're in flux of the our whole previous city manager resigning and trying to just get on our feet and try to do everything that we do on a usual basis. So other than that, it's always a pleasure to come to your commission's meeting. So any other questions for me or? No? Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned. Oh, man. Oh, you are, but we're unfortunately about to, I think, lose another commission member, so I'm going to end up having to reshuffle the committees. Heather sent me an email today saying that she is just swamped and she's going to have to drop off the commission. So good, thank God, yeah. But probably have to reshuffle all the committees a little bit once we get.
You know, and I was thinking too.
And if any people make good commission members, please let me know so I can contact them and urge them to apply.
Okay.
Okay?
No, that's good. Thank you so much. And I also think it's public relations.
Yeah, it's been hard, so I'm
Because Paul is in for re-election. He's not, as a council member, he's not up as re-election. Not yet. So if he doesn't make it, he's subject. Yeah, no, well, there was two council seats this year. But since the voters voted to vote for the mayor, one of the council seats turned into mayor's seat. And then that council seat is still open, so I had to make a decision. Council went to the and then anybody could run for a mayor's seat, even if you're on council. So technically, Bill or Randy or Paul, they have no risk, so they could just run for. No, well, I think it would still be a nomination. Yeah, it would be a nomination because our bylaws just say they are. So it doesn't go back, it doesn't continue on after election. So, yeah, it's, so we'll see. Like, it was, for ours, it was a real, I knew it. I just, we did our homework and we talked to people that are No, not at all. I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, I've seen that, it's unfortunate because I think a lot of Johnny Core supporters and Paul's Core supporters were a group. At least when I was my first city council, like that support group split. So there has been a lot of clash between them, not necessarily the candidates, but the supporters, as I see from somebody from far east. No, you just want to divert it. Yeah, so it's been an interesting dynamic to see that core group split. It's unfortunate because I hope that if whoever comes victorious, that group is able to mend again. Right. Because there's been accusations, even as silly as stealing sometimes.
I was surprised to read that one.
Yeah, so I stay away from it.
Right, that's the high road, right?
I'm like, whatever, I mean, it's, I'm not. But it's good. So far, so good. It's been interesting, but it's been good.
Our commissioner last night was really interesting.
It was good. I couldn't make it. Well, I usually see him, but my girl had a soccer practice.
Well, Bill's report was ready for the back.
Bill, okay, he went to the back meeting.
He did. His report on that, just that alone at the end is worth listening to. That was fascinating. And then just everything we're doing with the new landscape, approving Muelo was also what I understand.
Well, Muelo
we're
has
gonna
to be.
have a work party.
Yes.
I'm gonna join the sustainability.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but we've all been so because I'm in daily conversations with a lot of residents here.
Right.
Yeah. The interesting part of me talking to different water experts is the lack of communication.
It's not Winco.
As much as we thought we could.
I did the most amazing
Oh,
grocery store.
I think we all are doing
It's employee shopping.
It's terrible for the veggies.
Because they too have been the ones that
I love the book. The book section, oh my gosh, if you look at the shoebox, like these
Let's do it.
like even the
Yeah, I
salt.
haven't seen
I just
anybody
bought like
from
a
the
little bit of salt.
OBGMA board do it. I'm telling you, I know Michael Shapiro.
They have pink Himalayan salt there.
Yeah, I'm part of that, but I haven't seen no.
I need some leash on my
Interacts with the chemicals.
Exactly, we got that, so that's why
I had a question for you guys about that.
I'm a huge supporter of Bill Randy for that.
Yes, I would love that.
I don't know,
And I don't think
yeah.
anything if they don't. I just need to read the materials, right, appraise, and go for it. Yeah, and that's what I've been doing. There's no reason why to try to.
Like epoxy. Are you leaving?
I'm leaving too. But do you, I have to check my box.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Ray.
I'm gonna go to the Vine and get my pizza.
Yeah.
I haven't had dinner. Oh, yeah, that's important. It's late, it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I'll see you.
But we've got you windows and all that.
I know stuff about public art, that's why you got me on.
I know, we have Christine now.
Right,
But,
okay. What else do you want? So what do we need?
I want help.
What do we need?
You've got help. You've got as much help as you deserve,
Uh-huh.
which is a lot of help. You need a lot.
You were very good tonight. Thank you, Alan, that was wonderful, because you do have such a wonderful way of putting things, and you were very strong, because I thought, what is going on?
That was very
You
truly
know,
hilarious.
Alan, I sat there with Brian Skaggs and Amber and Kathleen and like an idiot, and said, oh, I think this is reasonable, we can do it. And then I went home and I went, what the hell did I just do?
Right.
And then you really did say that, thank you.
It's a law.
See, I wasn't sure, guys, so my grandson is part of OES. So, I mean, I don't have to.
No,
No,
I really
you do
wanted to
not
just
know.
shout out,
You don't
they're
have to
awesome.
recuse yourself unless you're like having a
Like the
financial.
fiscal.
thing.
But you know,
Which reminds me.
OSA is not getting a financial gain from Brian.
Exactly,
That's
so
all
you
we are.
might not be recused on
You have to
that.
recuse
Amber will
yourself.
fight
Well,
for that.
Amber kind of said I did it.
Well, let's ask her again next week,
Okay.
next month.
Susan Amen brought up again, this happened either right after you were on the commission or right before, that we wanted to get a Richard Amen piece in our collection, but we couldn't do it because Susan was on the commission, but she's not on the commission anymore.
Talk to the acquisitions
So,
chair.
yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
mentioning.
sure.
it as a
And Gert
general-
Koch, do you realize that Gert Koch like was part of a hippie community up here in Ojai in the sixties?
No.
He's an amazing artist, he's like 90s, getting old.
Will you talk to Linda Herman about it?
I will.
Coke, C-O-C-H,
K-O-C-H.
like Coke.
Two bearded guys who are
Yeah.
doing marijuana.
Well, you know, Martin,
Hey, I'm sure. No,
Great.
and he was
Back to the
a
landers, that's what they
full-time
do. They get up on kids.
teacher at Ventura College. He was one of the founders of Studio of Channel Islands Art Center. He's had a major career, but anyway, when he came to California, he was an artist and became part of this, came up to Ojai because there was.
Has he done community things for Ojai?
I'm sure, if,
Because,
I can find
lifetime
out.
achievement, that's one of the criteria, they have to have contributed in some way.
No, I'm talking about public art. I'm not talking
Oh.
lifetime, I'm talking.
Well,
for
public
bu-
arts
buying
can be
art.
lifetime.
No, I'm talking about buying his art.
And by the way, I'm thinking about.
For the
River
collection.
Savinjoy.
I'm sorry.
Lisa,
I'm sorry.
Lisa Savinjoy, River Savinjoy now, she changed her name to River. She also is the person who, for the last years, and especially this year, directs and makes the mandala for Ojai to happen.
Oh, yes.
We have to remember that's a community
Oh,
thing that she contributes.
yes.
Sure. Well, that would make her a contender. Yeah.
So,
Did you know Wes Johnson,
All right.
our teacher?
Good meeting
No, but
tonight.
I've heard so many people talk
I'll
about.
see everybody
Yeah.
next time he's even still alive, do you know?
Oh, I liked our meeting tonight.
No, I don't.
Now I can go home and just read the Times and
You know, I don't know. He was the
Do
brother
the
of my
crossword
father's business
puzzle.
partner, and he and I were
Bye, Roger.
students at Ventura College my freshman year.
So who was he married, wasn't he married?
I don't know.
Okay,
I lost track
So
when
I
I
don't
went
know
off
if
to.
this is Wes Johnson, but one of the old-time professors at Ventura College teachers, his son shot up the unemployment office in Ventura a number of years ago.